All right, Dad. Well, welcome to the internet. Thank you for joining me for MES Storytime. If you're wondering about I do that a lot. If you're wondering about my headphones and their position, I have to keep one ear open so that I can hear in the next room in case something catastrophic happens. So anyway, but I need to hear also my leveling. So anyway, uh, this video is another story time. I wanted to tell a couple of quick stories. They're not going to be quick. They're going to be slow because I'm long-winded. And I guess it's just like an experience of what it's like to play live with MES on stage. And me personally, as a musician, I have been on stage a million times. I can't even count how many. And there is a certain, and it's really all the experiences, depending on like the genre of music you're playing, they're all different. I've been in obviously orchestra, symphonic band kind of settings where it's like sit down, also in pit orchestra where you're, uh, I mean, that's also another thing where it's like different situations. You're either, out in front of the orchestra, or under the orchestra, or even behind I'm sorry, you're either, under the stage, just in front of the stage, or even behind, like on stage behind the act that's going on. We did that for Sondheim, a little night music. It's kind of meant to be that way. And everything's just different, like every stage etiquette is different. And mariachi is a very, very weird one. And it's almost kind of like marching band because you got to know what you're doing. You got to know where you're going. You have to be really comfortable with your show because there's a lot of things that happen in the show that don't happen in your rehearsal. This is true for all, any kind of music, but specifically with mariachi because there's a movement that happens in a way that, can be, it's hard to prepare for. So, you might practice one way or the other, and then you get on stage, and the stage setup is so different. And you make adjustments, but there's so much crap on stage sometimes. There's just, man, there's boxes and wires and cables and sheets of paper you don't want to step on, and monitors and mic stands, and there's just people leave instruments, drum kits. It's just all kinds of crap on stage. Even when you have kind of an open setup, like ideally, you still have to walk around monitors. Still have to walk around things. Where are they going to put the mic? They might keep behind you or whatever. So those things don't always, go as you plan. But with MES, it's particularly bad because we definitely do not rehearse those things, and you should. You should be prepared for anything, and we just don't. And so, to give you an example, on one occasion, Alina was singing a song live, and we were at PAC South, and we're playing this mariachi tune, and usually those things are super easy for us. We're not worried about it too much, but. She had a moment where she knows that trumpet solo is coming, right? But she doesn't know what Chewy's gonna do, right? Because Chewy's behind her, and she sort of lost her place in the show to the extent where it's like she forgets where she's standing, and she can't make a sudden movement, because then it looks weird, right? So she's nearing the end of this vocal thing. She can't make a huge movement, so she's just kind of like gonna bite on it, right? So she's saying to herself, "I don't know which side Chewy's gonna be on because there's mics in front of her that he can use, right? He can't use the one that's back there. He has to come to the front to play the solo." And so she just says, I'm just going to, it's 50-50. Either he's going to come on my left shoulder or he's going to come around my right shoulder. So she just guesses, right? She turns around to her left to let him take the stage. And sure enough, he's right there. And he's not, worried too much. I don't think he's worried about it playing his solo. And so, man, she almost went straight into his bell. And, if you're a trumpet player, if they hit your bell, I mean, it's just, it pop you right in the mouth. And man, I feel like you could break teeth like that. It's so that mouthpiece is so heavy, and the trumpet is so heavy. You feel like it, and so and she's an instrumentalist too. She's a flute player, so she knows these things about embouchure. And you can see it in the video. You can totally see where she turns around. She like takes like barely half a step, and then she has to go whoa, and she keeps spinning around and kind of goes off stage. And she has a reaction that you can hear, but she tries to play it off, because mariachi is this sort of festive sort of music where you can yell and say things like that, and she kind of took advantage of that. But that's just sort of that's one example of things, and it's not an advocacy to not be prepared, but sometimes things happen. Some things like that happen. One of the other things that happened that was kind of small, but it happens. It happens. Was this one time it was Chu and I think it was it was also at Paxal, and we were playing Guile's theme. And the way I had written, by the way, this is contingent upon knowing that the way I write arrangements is like very, very, every note on every instrument is written where it's supposed to be. Where traditional mariachi, like you can kind of like get away with this and that and the other. This is not like that. Every arrangement is super sensitive, and so if somebody misses a part, it's kind of a bit like if one person misses a part, it's a big deal. Well, I had this thing where I think it was a solo that I was playing, and uh, Chewy was supposed to take the next solo. Like we were gonna switch. It was gonna be me, then him, then both of us together. And I get to his part. Well, he like I as I'm nearing the end of mine, I look at him like out of the corner of my eye. He can't see me because he's like off in space, like just kind of jamming out, trying to look relaxed. And he's totally gonna miss it. He's gonna miss his entrance. And so I start playing it, his music, but I don't know his music, right? Like there's too much stuff for me to memorize, for me to know everybody's part. I don't know Chewy's part. I barely know mine. So I start playing his part, just guessing, and I'm guessing because I think to myself, well, okay, most of what's coming up is kind of linear motion. I think I can get away with guessing pretty accurately, and I did. I guessed very, very accurately, but also kind of fortuitously. But I'm hoping that Chewy's gonna notice that he's not noticing, and these seconds are ticking by and they feel like hours. That every note that goes by, it feels like a million hours long. And finally, he like kind of clues in, but again, no big movements, and he kind of like chills. He brings his horn up to his face and acts like this is what we meant all the time. And he starts playing his part like in a totally offbeat part of the phrase. Um, but I managed to flip my back to my part right on the note where he came in, and so it actually looks like it was totally intentional. It was totally not intentional, man. We totally blew that. And nobody knew, but I was for like a second there, I was sweating. I was like, oh man, because I think there was a jump. There was some jumps in there that I was like, if it's anything bigger than the third, I don't know what was gonna happen. So that one happened. That one was a big one. A smaller one. We were doing Sunset Riders on stage again, Pack South, and again, these arrangements are super, like, they're written in a very specific way, and we try not to deviate from that. We are capable of opening up sections like for solos and things like that and just kind of flying by the cuff. But usually we talk about those things before, like, okay, this section is going to be open-ended. Like, don't expect to move on until I tell you, kind of thing. This was not one of those sections. We had a very, very, very specific, again, everybody enters at the same time. But for some reason, like all the violins just blew the entrance, like and we're relaxed, having a good time, and then like everybody's waiting for this, bum, dun, 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 and there's no violins, and like you can see it on the video, like everybody kind of turns to look like, dude, and they don't come in on the next like rotation either, and I'm not sure how we did it. Like I would like to think, That's kind of my cue to as a front man or a director to kind of like pull things together on the fly and just give a cue. And I did one, but I'm not sure that everyone was looking at me. I think it was more of like an intuition thing where everybody just kind of came back in where, and we kept going. But rhythm players were looking at the violin players and like kind of like, well, what's going on here? Um, another thing we did on the fly one time was and that's the video game stuff. And with the video game music stuff, we don't know so well because we don't rehearse that much. We're very, very like very relaxed about our rehearsals. We only really prepare for big shows, and it's not a good thing because we can be sounding a lot better. We can be sounding a lot tighter. Clean up a lot of things. Be a little bit more creative with our arrangements if we were to rehearse those things. But we don't really have that kind of time. But on the mariachi stuff, like halfway through our show, we play some mariachi music, like traditional stuff. That stuff we just have like in here. And most of the time, I would say every show that we've ever done, yeah, every show we've ever done, we've chosen the mariachi traditional songs like the night before. The night before we go out, and I think that on a few occasions we have been backstage, kind of like, nah, we don't want to do this one. I think we've even been on stage and been like, nah, let's not do this one. Let's just do this one. And we have confidence that if we just call some random traditional mariachi tune, that it's going to be okay. Like we're not going to worry about it too much because all of us, that's what we do. So on this occasion with, oh God, what was it? Was it Nosotros? Nosotros? Yeah, I think so. The Doomsday was singing again. And, but this was a more creative thing. We hadn't rehearsed it, but like once maybe just to kind of go through it to make sure. I think like we went through the ending. And then when we were on the show, for some reason, I was just feeling like, this part could use some background vocals, and I thought if I sing this voicing, kind of distantly, it'll sound kind of pretty and this movement will kind of give it a nice harmony. But I didn't try to signal anybody to try to be like, hey, vocals, or you sing the top or you sing the bottom and I'll sing the middle, nothing like that. I just got on my little trumpet mic, which is not hot at all. It's not hot. It's one of these instrumental mics that they have it turned super low because it's a trumpet and I'm blowing, into it pretty hard. And I'm basically swallowing it. Like I have it basically in my mouth and I'm singing this part. And then I noticed that as soon as I started singing, like there were other voices and it was this perfect 3-part harmony coming like out of the monitors and out of the house speakers. And it was this beautiful angelic thing. And then in the middle of it, I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to, I like, even in there, I changed it up from what normally would be my voicing. I was like, I'm going to go way up here and do this. And it seemed to work out. I don't know. We never communicated before, during, or after that. And I thought it sounded pretty cool. It was like this nice angelic chorus in the back. That that puts the sound guys kind of in a bind too. They have to be able to adjust to that because if they turn off down my mics and then they see singing it to them, it's like, oh shit, gotta adjust for that. They're obviously doing something and that's important that needs to be done. So the last one that I can remember, which I thought was it's just like a good indicator. You want to be relaxed for the show. You want to be relaxed. You want to let some things chance. Not everything. You want to be prepared musically, and you want to be prepared, super prepared, because when these things happen, you need to be able to deal with them. And you also want to be able to have enough fun to be able to trust that whatever you do, your bandmates are going to understand you, and they're going to, that if it throws them off, they're going to be able to recover, with some time or with some ease. And a lot of times from now on, when you watch live bands, if you ever see the musicians on stage laughing at one another and you don't know why, it's probably because one of them threw a curveball Usually it's rhythm players that throw a curveball or bass players, which kind of counts as rhythm. But whenever you see that, you can rest assured that, and they're probably throwing curveballs at the singer just because, everybody gives singers a bunch of flack for not doing too much. Uh, so, but there was this one occasion, me and Chewy, we were there at PAX South again. It was a different year. And I was sort of thinking about this duet that he and I had coming up in a few seconds. There's a sort of instrumental groove going on, and I'm thinking, well, we could stay here in our spot, or we could go up to the front, throw the sound guys for a loop, and really make it impactful. If we can make it in time. And I'm telling Chewy, like, hey, let's go to the front. And he's like, let's stay here. And I'm like, nah, dude, like, I run this show. Like, let's go to the front. He's like, he sticks out his fist, and he means rock, paper, scissors. And so we're playing rock, paper, scissors on stage. And I think we tied, like, the first two, like the way you normally do. And then I wound up winning, and we wound up going to the front. Those are the kinds of little spontaneous things that you look forward to that really make your experience, because otherwise you're nervous, man. If you look at our first show that we did at PAX, I'm looking at the set list that's taped to the floor. I keep looking at it like every 15 seconds because I want it to be over. I like want it to end. I'm so nervous, and I'm generally nervous all the time because it's nerve wracking being the front man. I think that's what's new to me in all my experience and all my years playing on stage. The hardest thing is being the guy that's in charge, because nobody wants to do that. All the other cats, they're relaxed. They're just like, hey man, I'm just here to play notes, and have a good time. So anyway, thought you guys might enjoy that. Hope you like MES Storytime. There's going to be some other weird content because it is quarantine and I need to be creative. So have a good one, and peace.